We're going to do an edit here on VSCO. I am opening the library and I'm going to pull in an image from my gallery. I was over at Pacific City last week, Thursday, Cape Kiwanda here in Oregon on the Oregon coast. Got some photos down there. Here's one of a portion of the Cape. This is just north of the Big Dune there at Cape Kiwanda. And we'll open up the image and start out by going through filters. I just really like the warmth there on that 4. Check out a black and white. The color there, the green on the water and the pink in the sky is fairly arresting. Just gonna remember that I liked that C1. E1 gets good color on the rock. E2, same color on the rock, but also gives gold tones to the sky and the water, where I'd prefer for them to be blue-green or gray-green. That E4, we've got a pink sky and blue-green water. The rock is a little bit more dull or less vibrant. See, was that E4? And then let's compare that back with C1. And compare that back with 4. Looks like right now that's our strongest option so far. And that mist, we've got pretty bright highlights in that filter, which is bringing out the mist there at the base of the rock. I'm just going to work through a few more filters here. See if I've actually landed where I want to land. These J filters are minimalist filters. I'm going to take that K2 and compare it against the E4. Better color on the rock with the K2, but I still like that lightness of the mist with the E4. M4 and M5 lift the shadow quite a bit. Actually, it's M5 and M6. But that has a tendency to make the photo look quite a bit flatter. N2 does pretty good on the lightness. The sky is green rather than pink, and I'm not sure that I want that. Let's compare that P8 against the E4. Yeah, better watercolor on the E4, so holding on to that. This is taking me a little bit longer than it normally does, but this is not the kind of image that I generally shoot. I tend to focus on trees, tend to focus on stronger lines, tend to get in closer. This was a rainy day, so we've got full cloud cover. And because of the heavy rain, you can't necessarily see the rain at all in this image, but it does create a kind of a sense of thickness in the air. Let's just see how that T compares to the E4. I think I like this E4, although I almost never use it. Yeah, we're going to stick with it. See what happens when I bring down the exposure. We're going to leave that. See what happens when I bring down the temperature. How does that affect the water and the rock? Not too bad on the rock, and it definitely improved the water, at least my sense of how the water should look. Gonna leave that fade down, and let's look at the contrast. Consider increasing the contrast. when I do that, it just gets too bright on those waves. Look at the tint, move it all the way to the top, which is not bad. I like what that did to the rock, and it doesn't seem to have negatively affected the water. Just boost the saturation just a little bit. See what happens when I bring down the highlights. That really does dull the waves. Just bring them down a little bit. If I take this magenta and then scale it back, we'll see if I get just a little bit of pop on that wave. Not noticeably on the one, my eyes aren't sharp enough to see that. Although on the two, it almost looks too strong to me. So we'll just leave it on the one and assume that that's subtle enough to make a difference even if I can't quite see it. Looks like the shadow are basically going to affect the top of the rock there, where there's some scrub trees kind of holding on for dear life. Good movement. There wasn't a real strong wind that day, but it looks like what there was enough to bend the tops of that plant life there on that rock. Give us a sense of movement. Scale that back. Got our shadow fixed. We're ready to save this image and send it over to the gallery. Got better color on that than I thought I was going to get. I'd walked down on the beach. I'd spent most of the day at Stimulus. It's a little coffee shop there with good views of the ocean just across the parking lot from this particular beach. Noticed as the rain started up pretty heavily that what little population had been out there on the sand took off. People got in their cars and drove away. Decided I was going to take advantage of an empty beach for as long as it lasted, get some shots, and it only lasted for about 12 minutes. Even with the rain, there were people who drove up and started out hiking down the beach. Got some pictures of me as a kid in there. Open this up in VSCO. Send it to Picasso so that I'll have access from my computer. And then I can crop it, caption it, schedule it, and we're good to go. There it goes.